If you've been playing Frag Pro Shooter for a while, you're developing your skills, and the normal version of the game is getting a little boring because you're getting so good at it, right? If that's the case, maybe consider Dueling. Dueling is a game mode that not a lot of players know about. It changes the dynamics of the game, and it makes it a lot harder than your standard ladder matches. In this video, I will break down the differences between Dueling style and normal gameplay. The thing to know about Dueling is that it is extremely competitive. The highest echelons of Frag players love to duel because success is determined by raw skill rather than by how powerful your cards are. What I mean by that is that when you duel, a lot of settings are changed for your cards. Beginning with, all of the levels of your cards are balanced to level 9. If you have a low level card, it goes up. If you have a high level card, it goes down. Also, when you enter into a duel, all of your equipment is automatically removed and all of your frag powers are automatically removed. This balances the game to where every single card is at the same level as your opponent. Now, in the dueling community, there is another rule that we have to follow. That rule is that augments must also be disabled. The game doesn't make it very obvious on how to do this, so let me take a quick moment to explain to you exactly how to disable your augments. Before getting into a duel, you will need to manually disable your augments. You do that by going over to your deck where you can edit what cards are in your 5. And then from there, you have to manually disable each augment for every character. You do that by going to that character, augments on the right, and then you'll see the little level next to your augments. For example, thick skin is level 3, explosive tag is level 1. In order to disable, you click on that augment, and then you will see the level tier on the left-hand side. Click inactive, and then equip. And then do that again for your other augment. Now you will see that both of these are set to level 0. And then this process has to be repeated for every single fragger that you're going to be bringing into that match. It's a little bit of a tedious process, but hopefully the developers will do a quick augment disable button that you can toggle on and off one day. But until then, this is how we have to do it. As I'm sure you can imagine, all of this rebalancing dramatically changes how well all of the fraggers perform. For example, one of your favorite fraggers in the game might be one of the worst duelers, and then vice versa. A character that you might have never even touched before could be one of the best duelers in the game. Now, there's a few other points that you need to know before you start getting good at dueling, and these are things that you can practice. One is that you have to be an expert at the gameplay itself. An obvious example of this is having good aim. You're going to be playing against some of the best players in the game, so making sure that you hit your shots and get frags is obviously important. But also you need to have good game awareness, knowing when to attack, knowing when to defend, knowing when to let your AI take over, or what fraggers you need to control directly and at what times is very, very important. A lot of duels are determined by a 100-point difference because of this very factor. The margin of error is very small. Another thing that's important is your deck composition. You need to know what fraggers sync well with others. You need to know the strengths and the weaknesses of all the fraggers. And you also need to know what team strategy you're going to run before the match even starts, and then build your deck composition based off of that. Some examples of these team strategies would be base rushing or aggressive, cage or contain, or a full-on defense strategy. I can go more in depth on these particular strategies in a different video, but for now, you need to know that there's a lot of things that you need to think about before a match begins. The last point I will make about this is that the map that you're playing on is also very important to consider. So you need to know what map you're playing, you need to know what team you're going to be running, and obviously you need to make sure that you have the skill to capitalize on all of those factors all at the same time. You can see why some of the best players in Frag prefer dueling over your standard ladder matches, because there's so much more skill and strategy that goes into this. Now, unfortunately, there is one downside to dueling, and that is that it is by invite only, which means that you have to directly go to a specific person, probably a friend or somebody in your club. I mean, you could technically go find a random person, but it's easier to communicate ahead of time, either through the in-game chat, or a lot of duelers use Discord, and they set up duels ahead of time, and then you go in game, and then you have to actually manually request a duel invite, which they will accept, and then boom, you get into a duel. So yes, all of this coordination is a little bit of a headache, and hopefully the developers will integrate a more user-friendly in-game system where you can queue up duels against random players. That's obviously a big hope that we all have.
Please.
So, as mentioned before, dueling in FRAG is the highest echelon of play. It requires more skill and more strategy than your typical ladder matches. This is because there is no equipment. There are no frag powers. There are no augments. Everybody is the same level. Everybody starts off on the same even playing field. It is a true test of raw skill and strategy. This is why the best frag players in the world have created a community called the Frag Champions League. This is the only esport event that the game has, and this is where the top players in the world compete to see who reigns supreme. If you practice dueling, you could find yourself lucky enough to be considered in this elite community of fraggers. So, until then, see you on the battlefield. Till next time.